for my U.S. history class. We are learning about social history, and so I'm interviewing Retired Rear Admiral Mr. Mathis.
Okay.
You were a Rear Admiral in the Navy. How many years?
35 years.
35, wow. That's
From 1971 to 2006. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've been retired for 14 years?
Right.
Have you lived in Tucson your entire retired time?
Right.
Okay, so I found, according to the biography, you were on 5 different ships?
Right.
Okay, so the USS Chicago, USS Cayuga, is that how you pronounce
That's
that?
good. Okay.
USS Stein, USS George Philip, and USS Jesse L. Brown?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure those were all right. So you obviously traveled a lot. Do you know how many countries you went to?
We added it up one time. I actually have a big map on the wall. I put pins in it.
Whoa,
because
that's
so many.
cool.
The only thing I haven't done is to go through the Suez Canal. So
Okay.
I went on a ship to Turkey as a kid. My dad was stationed in Istanbul for 2 years, and then I've done everything to Africa going the other way. So
That's amazing. I love traveling. That sounds so cool. Which ship do you remember the most? Like what had the most impact on you?
probably the USS Chicago. It was the largest ship we had other than aircraft carriers. It was a guided missile cruiser. And in fact, I just got back from San Diego yesterday. I went to my first commanding officer's funeral. He was 93 years old, has 7 kids, 23 grandchildren. It was a really big family. But he was a heck of a gentleman.
I'm
so
sorry
that's why we flew over there.
So what did you do on the USS Chicago?
Half of the time I was the electrical officer, so I took care of power and the lights and everything.
Okay.
I also had the gyro compasses and all the interior communications. We had a real telephone switchboard, and we had an elevator.
On the ship?
Which
Oh wow,
continually
that's
broke.
cool.
Yeah, the bridge where you steer from, if you will, it was on the 08 level, so it was 8 levels above the water. So to get there quickly, we had an elevator, which when it worked, got you quickly. when it was broken, man, that's so good. I got trapped in it one time with,
Oh no.
with an admiral, that captain, and 2 Marine Corps aides. So there were 5 of us stuffed in this little box.
Oh boy.
And
How
it
long
stopped.
were you in there?
Too long. It seemed like eternity, but we finally got the doors open and crawled out. So.
How tall is the ship? How big? You said it's the biggest one?
It was 900 feet long, weighed 17,000 tons.
Oh my
and
goodness.
125 feet taller, so I'm just kind of, that's tough. It depended which radars were on the
Really
time, but
big.
it was huge. Yeah.
How long were you on that one?
3 years and 8 months.
Was that your longest time on one ship?
On one ship, yeah.
Oh wow. And you never came back to land during that time, or did you have breaks?
We came back all the time.
Oh,
That was during Vietnam, so we spent quite a bit of time off the coast of Vietnam. The longest period of time at sea, and I know this because they went over it at the funeral, was 71 days without going ashore, without having
That's
a beer.
still a long time.
So, yeah.
So, because of that, do you still like water and going on boats, or did it kind of make you sick of it? Are you?
No, we still love it. We just went around South America from
right,
Buenos
yes.
Aires to Santiago over Christmas. So, yeah.
That sounds.
I had done that on my own ship, the Jesse L. Brown, but when you're the commanding officer, it's not very relaxing. So this was a lot more relaxing. So.
What was the most challenging thing you had to do on the ship? On any of the ships, what was the hardest thing that you had to face or go through?
Oh, you mean skill-wise on there? Or?
Yeah, or because I know some of them were involved in wars. I don't know if you were on them during those times.
We were. The Chicago went into a place called Haiphong Harbor in Vietnam. And they were shooting back at us, and we were shooting missiles. So it was fairly interesting. Yeah.
That sounds terrifying.
No, it's part of the job. Most of the time, we were out at sea quite a ways off, so it really wasn't an issue. It wasn't like the kids that actually went to Vietnam. It was relatively safe being on a ship, although 1 or 2 ships did get hit. And even now, the mining issues off Iran are still huge. You can never tell.
Yeah. Did your ship ever get hit with a missile?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
Unfortunately.
That's, yeah.
There was a destroyer called the Higgins that had the Higbee, who had her after gun mount blown off. Vietnamese airplane dropped a bomb and it just hit the corner of the gun mount.
Oh.
The whole thing went that way, killing a lot of people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you get to see like some of like the creatures in the sea and stuff when you were on the ships, or not really?
Once in a while, you'll occasionally run into whales. We went down, actually, when I had my own ship, the Jesse L. Brown, we'd go down through the Panama Canal over off the coast of Costa Rica looking for drug smugglers. And there were a lot of whales and things down there.
Jesse L. Brown you were like the commander of that one?
Right.
So that was the first time you like commanded it?
Yeah, you start off as the XO. XO's the number 2 guy, and that was on the George Phillip.
Okay.
So you get to practice being the CO, but you're number 2.
Oh,
so.
that's smart. I never knew
Yeah.
that. That's interesting.
And so, yeah, I still keep in touch with my commanding officer off of there. He's a travel agent in San Diego, so we book our cruises through him. Yeah, so.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's cool that you get to like stay connected with all these people.
Oh, yeah.
Do you try to see them all really often?
Oh, sort of. A lot of them, well, I spent so much time on the East Coast that a lot of people, you know, end up having their families there and they have grandkids and they never want to move. Well, we don't have grandkids, and we just told our kids we're moving. So that's how we got here. So
Yeah, where did you live before Tucson? Where's the last place?
back in Herndon, Virginia,
Okay.
just outside of D.C.
Okay, nice.
I spent almost 17 years back working in the Pentagon and
Really?
Crystal
Oh,
City,
wow.
which is across the river from the Pentagon. So.
That's cool. Oh yeah, I read a lot of stuff. You were like involved in a bunch of missile.
Developments.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting. Like,
It's
what exactly did
very
you do
interesting.
there?
I was a program manager, which meant I oversaw the development of the programs. And so we ran a group of government engineers, and they're supported by the Navy labs around Dahlgren being one of them. And then the contractor for the program was Raytheon. So all of the work and the building of the missiles goes on out here in Tucson. So a lot of support. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who work for Raytheon
Yeah.
here.
So when I retired from essentially being a rocket engineer, a rocket scientist, and I came out here to work for Raytheon. So
Nice.
just as a historical piece, since you're doing social studies, the ship I had, the Jesse L. Brown, was named for a black aviator who was killed in Korea. It was the first ship named after a black person. So.
Oh wow, that's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, he was really cool. He crash landed, was shot, crash landed in North Korea. And there was another pilot, his friend tried to land and get him out of the airplane, but the plane caught fire, so he didn't make it. So he got a ship named after him.
Well, that's cool.
Unfortunately, most people that get ships named after them are usually dead. So
yeah.
one or two is still alive. But,
What was probably like the coolest country or place you got to visit? It's a very open-ended question, sorry.
Yeah, that's really tough because there's so many neat places. I think England,
England?
Scotland, where we like the best.
I've always really wanted to go there. Well, I wanted to go everywhere. But I technically haven't been out of the country, but I'm hoping to go on a trip to Israel with my school next year.
That'd
Have
be
you been
fun.
to Israel?
Yes, I have. It's very, very interesting. So.
Cool.
And then next March, we're doing something I've wanted to do forever. We're going to Egypt for 2 weeks.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
Go to Cairo and then fly down to Luxor and get on a river boat and go up and down the Nile.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to tell me about that.
Oh, I'll show you pictures because I love doing that. So far, they don't have any of this flu bug. So.
Oh, the coronavirus?
Yeah, it's ruining a lot of people's cruises right now.
Yeah.
So we've always wanted to do it, so we're just going to go do it. So.
Well, I guess on that topic, were there any protocols with like diseases and things being in other countries you guys had to take?
For this one here, we got typhoid shots again because ours were more than 10 years old. And then also they have a rabies vaccine, which is a series of 3 shots. So you have one Friday, the next Friday, and then skip 2 weeks and have a third one.
Oh.
So that way if a bat bites you by accident or something, you
Gotcha.
only need 2 more shots. So, but when I first came to the Navy, some of the places we went actually got plague shots.
Oh,
black plague
that's
stuff.
scary.
That was the worst shots we ever got. I mean, that was, so, but,
just like helps prevent it, or like?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty bad otherwise. It really isn't a cure. So, you still do. You don't see them as often, but you get a shot card. It's done by the World Health Organization, and it folds out, and there's places to put stamps for all the shots you've gotten. So
did you ever like get sick on your ships, or see like other guys get sick? Maybe not like by diseases or whatever, but yeah, like seasickness.
No, you get tired because the ship rolls all the time. You don't sleep very well, so you get tired. But I've never got to the point where I had to run outside and barf. So,
I guess you have to get used to being on the ships.
yeah. Some people get those little patches and put them behind their ears.
Oh, I've seen those. Yeah.
Scopolamine. It was what the Nazis used as a truth serum, but it's a
Oh.
very low dose.
Wow,
It's just interesting.
So you worked with missiles a lot. Did you ever work with like nuclear weapons at all?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about that?
Not much.
Not much.
Except we have them.
Oh.
So.
Interesting. I was just wondering how much I could
Yeah.
learn about that, but I figured probably not a lot.
It's really a weapon of last resort. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I hope we don't have to ever get into those.
No, I mean, they have a thing called mutually assured destruction. So the fact that you have them and can blow up the other guy keeps the other guy from launching against you.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of a dismal worldview, though. I mean,
Yeah. Hope no one would want to.
China and Russia, you can pretty much trust them because but if terrorists were to get a hold of weapons, then
That's the
a whole
problem.
different kind of a deal. They've got nothing to lose, so that's
Yeah.
kind of why we've had treaties with Russia to reduce the numbers of nuclear weapons so they don't accidentally get in somebody else's
Yeah,
hands.
that's a scary thing because, like, terrorists, they like put bombs on themselves, and if they're okay hurting themselves, then they don't care about other people.
Have you ever been down to the Missile Museum south of Tucson here?
No, I don't.
That's
think I have.
fascinating.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the old, I want to say Trident, but I'm not sure that's the right name of it. There was a series of 17 silos around Tucson that had one of these missiles in each one of them.
Whoa.
Most of them are all filled in. This is one of two, I think, left in the U.S. where you can actually get a tour of it. But it's very, very impressive. But it shows you the safeguards against accidental launch and everything. So it's well worth going down there.
How many silos did you say?
There were 17, I think. All they were placed so one bomb wouldn't wipe them all out. They were spread all over the valley.
That's smart.
So
I
yeah.
never knew about that. Did you have something to do with that, or is that just something you learned about?
That's a different branch. The Air Force usually has control of all of that stuff.
Gotcha. What did you like more? Did you like being on the ships, or like working with the missiles more on?
Oh, it's tough. I stayed in the Navy because I liked working with the sailors. I mean, that was the best part of it. I mean, they're great people. And the civilians, too. Civilians are every bit as much fun as working with the guys at sea. So I didn't really care. I like going places and seeing things. That was fun. But and there was a lot of interesting things in Washington, D.C. that I was involved in. But living there in the traffic.
Yeah.
We got tired of the traffic. I thought we were looking to come out west and get away. Everybody there, they're more important than the other guy. I mean, there's nothing but a giant pool of egos. So watching on the news. But I worked on the joint staff. I've been in all of those places, and you see it on TV. I got to do all that. I worked for the joint staff.
Oh yeah, I saw that. So JIANDO. Is that
JTAMDO.
JOTAM. Oh, that's how you say that.
Yeah, the name changed halfway when I was Joint Integrated Air and Missile Defense.
Yes, there we go.
It was an attempt to get all of the services to be able to work together.
Oh, interesting.
Radios, everybody would have the same plan, same training, and everything else. It's like herding cats. I mean, the Air Force wants to do Air Force stuff, the Navy wants to do Navy stuff. Working together was a challenge. So.
Like nowadays, like how did that help at all? Did it work?
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah, but there's still a ways to go. So but now we have the Space Force too. So
we've
got something new to contend with.
I know. When I heard about that, I was like, whoa! I didn't even think that we could start new ones.
I think what they'll probably do is 90% of it will be from the Air Force and people that do that work in the Air Force now, and a smattering of Navy people probably. So possibly a little Army in there, but it'll be mostly Air Force driven. So I don't know that it's going to fix anything.
Yeah, I don't really know much about it. So when you went to college to get your degrees, did you do that because you knew you wanted to go into the military, or did that come like later on? Did you always
My
know?
dad was retired Navy. He was a retired chief gunner's mate, an enlisted guy. And so that's how we lived in Turkey for 2 years and around. His last duty station, he taught ROTC at the University of Idaho.
Okay,
And then
that's
he retired and we moved to Portland. And he
Mm.
went to work for Bonneville Power Administration, which is the dams and everything and power distribution in
Yeah.
Oregon, Washington. So I had seen enough of the military, so I went up to Seattle University and got a degree in chemistry, and I was all set to go be a chemist. It looked like I probably would have been testing drinking water for the rest of my life, which doesn't not sound very exciting. But then they came out with a draft, and my draft number was 35, so it was almost guaranteed that I'd go to Vietnam. And I don't like snakes, and Vietnam had all kinds of snakes.
Really?
So, yeah. And my dad had been in the Navy. It looked relatively harmless, so I joined the Navy. You know, and I thought it was going to be for 3 years. You know, go sail around in a ship.
35 years later?
Yeah, 35 years later, I got out. Yeah, which is mandatory retirement age. So,
Oh, okay. Would you have gone longer if you could have?
if I would have made vice admiral, I could have stayed a couple more years.
Oh.
But to be honest with you, I had enough of DC. And 35 years is a long time. So.
So when you get like your draft number, if you get drafted, then you get to pick which branch you go
No,
into?
they almost everybody went in the Army.
Oh.
'Cause that's where everybody wanted to go to the Air Force and the Navy, and they were full. I had to wait almost 6 or 7 months before I could go to officer training school. Otherwise, I'd have gone in as an enlisted guy. But so I waited.
So when you were on the ships, then did you dock a lot in other countries, or did you mostly stay just like stationed like in the water?
No, you usually go into port every couple of weeks. Well, you need fuel for one thing.
Oh,
I mean,
that's true.
they have oilers that refuel you out at sea if you have to stay out. But
Oh,
they usually
interesting.
try to come in every 3 or 4 weeks. You know, stop somewhere. So we did. I've been through the Panama Canal, going over there chasing druggies. You know, about 6 times I guess now. So
I've heard, yeah.
it's pretty cool. A lot of cool machinery. So. But we pulled into Puerto Rico. Well, then we were doing training with South American Navy, so we'd go do exercises all week and then pull into port somewhere for the weekend and then get underway and go to the next country and stuff.
So did you got to meet a lot of people from like other countries in militaries?
Right.
Did you make a lot of friends?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And in
cool.
the missile business too.
Oh, yeah.
All of the NATO countries, you know, by and large.
Oh, I didn't think about
Yeah,
that. That's
a lot of them have U.S. equipment on them.
cool.
NATO Sea Sparrow standard missile, which is built here. So there's, you know, buddies will come to town.
Oh.
My last job was the biggest standard missile. It's called standard because it was 3 different missiles were merged into a single missile called standard missile. It was Talos, Tartar, and Terrier were 3 different kinds of missiles. And those were blended into standard missile. And that's currently what we have. There's all kinds of varieties of them. The newest one is Standard Missile 6. And that was a co-development program with Japan, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries.
Oh, I've heard of that.
They build cars.
That's probably
They build
what it is.
airplanes, but they also build missiles. So we were their partners in that. So we co-designed it. In reality, much of the work was done in the U.S. because it was classified. But they built major components for it. And we'd go to Japan, you know, once a month, and they'd come here once a month, and we had VTCs. My guys had to do it every night because that was morning there. So, you know, start of work there, at the end of the day here, but they'd be in a VTC until 8, 9 o'clock at night. There's worked pretty hard on that thing. So
I didn't think about, because you know, I was like, oh yeah, you probably travel a lot in ships, but I didn't think about you traveling, working with the missiles too.
yeah, I probably made 24 trips to Japan in the time I was here, and I don't know how many to Europe.
Wow.
So we did a lot of work with you know, the Europeans, not so much the Brits. For some reason, the Brits bought a lot of French equipment, and so to be different, I guess.
Gotta be unique.
They really wanted the U.S. stuff, but because of the politics, they ended up buying stuff with the French.
You spent a lot of time in Japan. Did they have a lot of influence? Like, would you go back to Japan now?
Oh, I love it.
Really?
Yeah. The flight's long, but the people are wonderful. So we spend part of the time in meetings in Tokyo, so I got to know Tokyo pretty well. And then the actual engineers were down in Nagoya, south of Tokyo.
Okay.
So we'd go down there and spend a week for a program review, and then every couple of weeks go back again. So, and the guy that was my equivalent on the program manager, still comes to town. He's been promoted to vice president now or something, but he'll call and we'll go out and have dinner. He'll come over to the house. So it's good to see him when they do that.
Yeah. What was the biggest, coolest missile you worked on that you can talk about? Was it the Standard missile?
Yeah,
Probably.
Standard missile. Yeah, and it's Standard Missile 2, and it was strictly surface launched off of ships to take out enemy aircraft is really what it was designed for. So it was a defensive weapon. SM-6 was a long-range anti-air missile also against planes and other missiles. But it also has the capability now to go after ships. So you can get bad guy ships and stuff. So it's a very sophisticated missile. SM-3, the Block 1 and Block 2A, those were anti-ballistic missiles. So those were designed specifically to operate outside the atmosphere to shoot down incoming ballistic missiles.
Wow.
So if China or Russia or Iran or North Korea were to launch a ballistic missile towards the United States, you've got a capability of shooting them down. Now there are bigger missiles that do this mission in Fort Greely in Alaska. There's a missile site up there, and they're also down in Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. But those are not portable. The ones that the SM-3 that I was working on actually go on a ship, and so the ship's radar system can do all of that. So, again, strictly defensive. They have no offensive capability at all. They kill the bad guy by running into it at such high velocity.
Gotcha.
Both of them are doing 17,000 miles an hour, and when they collide, it's a kinetic kill. So.
Wow. That's interesting, like an offensive and defensive missile, like a sport or something.
Yeah, the offensive ones really are Tomahawks. Those are designed to go after land targets, and those are built in Tucson too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on. Raytheon's got, I think, 17,000 people here, give or take. They went down to 12, but now they're merging with another company, and a lot of that work will move here to Tucson. So.
Do you have any other like cool stories of things that happened while you were either on ships or working with missiles?
We never dropped anything. So
Well, that's good.
The answers. That's.
Like funny stories? Do you have any good memories?
I've got lots of good memories. Not all suitable for.
I see. That's okay.
Sailors were a little bit wilder in the old days, and you have to remember it wasn't until relatively recently that women came on ships. So it was always an all-male crew and their characters.
I can imagine.
Yeah, you have to be more civilized nowadays.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah. So.
When you were in DC and stuff, did you ever get to like meet the president? Who was the president at the time, or like work at all with the government?
I worked for senior office of Secretary of Defense. So the Secretary of Defense and his people. I met a few people in the State Department, but not many. I mean, there are people that get to, but because I was in the missile business, I'm mostly stuck doing that. So. The one thing that I also had charge of too was the joint EOD community, the explosive ordnance disposal, the guys that try to take care of roadside bombs and things, and the guys that do bomb detonation.
That sounds interesting.
Oh, those guys are heroes. I mean, really, so the Navy is the lead service for EOD guys, and there are the EOD guys in the Air Force and the Army as well, but the schools are run by the Navy. And so they worked for me. at the time, so I got to meet a lot of those. So, I mean, real heroes, anybody that can go in there and just disable a bomb, you know. You always hear, cut the red wire.
I know in like movies and stuff, it's probably way
It's
more
awful.
terrifying.
It really
I
is.
could never do that. I'd like shake and be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've got, when I left that job, I got a brick out of the memorial because the EOD school was moving down to Florida.
That's cool.
So I could bring it out here and show you.
Oh, you have it here?
Yeah. But yeah, the divers, the hard hat
Yeah, sorry,
divers.
got off track.
No,
That's
it's okay.
so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, wow.
The flags of the force services that do explosive ordnance disposal. The Navy does the diving once to go and get torpedoes and mines and stuff like that. So, but the brick that came apart because they couldn't move all the brick down to Florida. They built a new one down there, which is pretty fancy.
That's an honor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so cool. How many like awards and things have you gotten? Do you have any idea? Because I'm sure you've gotten a lot of medals and
Quite a few.
honors. Yeah, don't be humble. You
No,
can
no,
be.
no. Well, I have a combat action ribbon, but that's because you were in Vietnam, more or less there. And so, but I mean, if you see somebody with Purple Heart, that means they were shot. You know, they actually ended up in a hospital. You see the license plates with Purple Hearts on.
Yeah.
And Bronze Stars usually, and then it goes up from there. I've got the peacetime awards that go up higher than that, but yeah, it's not quite the same as a wartime award. So.
That's so really cool. After all that, if you had the chance to do it all over again, would you do it again?
Oh, certainly, yeah. There's a lot of challenges, and again, you know, it's so much fun working with the people, and the technology is so cool. Being the geek,
Yeah.
I love the technology. So.
Yeah, I read you worked with a bunch of cool, like, crazy
Yeah, I
technology.
actually ran the high energy laser program.
Oh
for a
yeah,
couple of
charged
years.
particle beams and
Yeah,
stuff.
that didn't
like,
go very. That didn't go so. didn't work out too well. Someday it may be useful, but right now it didn't work out that well. Lasers don't work out too well for any number of reasons. The Navy keeps wanting to get a laser because it sounds like it would be really efficient, you know. But it's trying to get a laser light to go through the atmosphere at high power and for very long distances is very hard. Most of the energy is absorbed by the atmosphere, so you don't actually get much of it on target. So
it's a lot of science I don't understand, but
it's okay.
that makes sense. That seems really hard. I never thought
A lot of that
lasers.
technology that we developed to build a laser to go on a ship has been transferred over to like land-based telescopes and stuff.
Oh, okay.
This is another trivia point you might want to go see sometime. The mirrors, they're 8.4 meter mirrors, which is really a big mirror. They're actually melted and poured and polished underneath the football stadium at U of A.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's a whole thing underneath there because it's down on bedrock and it's really solid, and they actually make the mirrors. There was a series of, let's see, there 6 mirrors, I believe, 5 around the outside and 1 in the middle, were all made for the Southern European Observatory down in Chile. So the glass mostly comes from Japan. It's brought here, it's melted in these giant ovens, and the ovens move. They rotate around, and so you end up with a concave surface like that, so you don't have to polish it so much.
Oh,
You know,
that's
and
so
then
interesting.
They're cooled over a period of time, and then they're taken by a large truck to a large ship, and then they go down to Chile and then hauled up the mountain to build a telescope there. So,
Never knew about that. I'll have to
Yeah,
look that
well,
up. I have secret knowledge now.
the kid that worked for me, really a great kid, actually quit Raytheon and went over to work for the optics department at U of A, so I got an inside source. If I had to pick, watching glass melt is, I mean, if you're into it, it's
Yeah,
really
it's
cool.
kind
I'd
of
go
cool.
down to this little silo down south of here.
Yeah.
It's about halfway between here and Tubac.
Do you have any other like cool inside things that you've learned through being in the Navy and missile working?
It's pretty cutting edge. After 35 years, you do a lot of things. The Navy has a series of laboratories, they actually are, and there are engineers and scientists working in them, and those guys worked for me for a couple of years too.
That's
And
cool.
so I got to go around the country, getting to see all the latest developments. You know,
That's
all of
really
the
cool.
sniper rifles and everything else are built in Crane, Indiana, for instance.
Oh.
You wouldn't know that, but
Nope.
the match pistol sets for, you know, the Olympics and everything are made and calibrated in Crane. They also do a lot of work on guns, Crane too, the big guns, 5-inch guns and everything. So
Wow, yeah, that's really interesting.
Dahlgren does a lot of computer work, you know. Most of the ship's combat systems, the software that makes the missiles work, and everything is done in Dahlgren. They also have the gun testing range where they used to shoot 16-inch shells down the Potomac River to test out the guns.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before?
I don't know, I probably talked your leg off already.
Oh, no, it's okay. No, I've learned a lot, so thank you so much. I want to do more research. Do you have any, like, websites or books or things to learn more about, like?
You can, the easiest thing is just Google it. And then, I mean, it's so easy now. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
I had 2 rooms full of books in here, you know, because you needed the book. Now you just go online and find out what you want. A lot of what I did, though, was classified, so I mean, there's only so much you can talk about it and so much you'll see in there. Security is always a big issue.
Yeah.
Trying to do that, especially working. NATO countries is pretty easy to work with because they have standardized ways of giving security clearances, but you get outside of the group of NATO countries, then it becomes more challenging. Australia and New Zealand are always part of that. Even though they aren't technically NATO, they're still part of
Oh, interesting. Okay.
the group in here, especially Australians. So
I feel like that'd be really hard to, like, work with this classified stuff, but then, like, you come home and you can't even, like, tell your family about it.
now,
That's,
Janine did that. She was in the Air Force for 11
Oh,
years,
yeah.
so she worked.
why did I not know that?
Because I didn't retire.
It was too,
I had children.
it was too hard to go be transferred to the same place, and so they were going to send her to Mississippi and me to DC, and we decided that she decided I wasn't going to tell her what to do.
Well, yeah.
So she decided that it'd be better to take care of the kids. Yeah,
Well-
I met her. The Navy has a graduate school dedicated just
Ah.
for military, and it's in Monterey, California, which is a real horrible place. It's
I've been in a
gorgeous.
lot of places in California, but not there.
The Navy's got a graduate school. I think it's got 4,000 to 5,000 people in it.
Wow.
The old Del Monte
And
Hotel.
It was the old Del Monte Hotel, which was kind of like Del Coronado in Coronado down in San Diego. Kind of that same place where rich people used to go. The Navy got the land somehow in the buildings and then built a graduate school there. So, and it's more or less international. There are a lot of foreign kids come there to go to school.
Interesting.
And you let Air Force people got to go to that school. So I actually met her at graduate school.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, and
Wow.
the Air Force does have its own graduate school, but it's in Dayton, Ohio.
It's like any other grad school, more or less. A lot of ops analysis, a lot of strategy, a lot of engineering, though, which is I got a master's degree in physics. But it's specifically focused on naval and military requirements. You couldn't do anything like that at U of A or something. It's too concentrated and too specific. So, had classes in lasers, propellants and explosives and things that aren't very popular in the civilian community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tactical and strategic planning,
Yeah.
and a lot of computer programming.
Yeah, I was there for almost 3 years, so out of the 35, that's really hard to go there. So. And I met her. Something to comment on too, because I mean, people live here in Tucson and most of the country. I mean, it's kind of like an 8 to 5 job being in the Air Force here. You fly planes and stuff. In the Navy, you've got to stand watch and be able to fight the ship in case you get into a war. But you also have to do all of your own maintenance. And the ship goes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you've got people that are on watch working the machinery for 4 hours and are off for 8 hours, and that usually rotates. And so you're up, from the midnight to 4, 4 to
Oh,
6,
that would
because you have to have
stink.
breakfast 6 to 8. Yeah, and that rotates around the clock. So you've got the job of maintaining the equipment, you've got the job of operating the equipment, and you've got to be able to fight
That's
it.
hard.
And then if you're if you get in a war and you take damage, you've got to be able to plug the holes in the ship, because nobody's going to come out there and help you. So it's
There's no like specific time off. It's basically
No.
24/7. You gotta be
Yeah,
ready.
yeah.
Wow, that's hard. Well, thank you so much.
Let me show you.
Oh, yes,
Let me show you
yeah.
where this came from. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of.
Each ship has a little plaque, so you get them in each one of the commands.
That's so cool.
On the Jesse L. Brown, it was a FFG, and so it had a different kind of way. This was the actual steering wheel off the ship.
That's
Instead of the
so
big wooden
small.
one, yeah,
That's
it was all mostly
really
automated,
weird.
so-
Oh, gotcha.
And then this thing here, this is the EOD plaque. It's
Oh,
Ordnance
the-
Disposal. Yeah, but they take a sheet of brass and then they have dies on here, and they put C4 explosive on top and drive the dies in it, which is engraves these things. And that was a George Philip.
Oh, I didn't even see that up there. That's so cool.
And that was my first Admiral flag. the little
Oh,
star
that's.
flag, so. And those are standard missiles over here. See, you can.
Oh, that's cool. Are they like replicas, models?
Plastic models. Yeah.
And that's cool, like you on the
Yeah.
ship.
Yeah, I got that when I went away. That's when I got out of DC to go take command of the Jesse L. Brown. And this was the Chicago I was on. You can see the size of that beast. Yeah.
Wow, that is
So you
large.
get to learn all the radar systems and everything. So that's so fascinating.
Thank you so much for showing all of this. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you,
You bet.
Retired
Thank
Rear
you.
Admiral Mr. Mathis.